Michael Jackson. You hear the name, and a whole universe of music, dance, and culture just opens up. But how does a kid from Gary, Indiana, become the undisputed king of pop? A global icon whose influence honestly is still everywhere today. Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. The unbelievable life, the game-changing art, and the very complex legacy of one of the most famous people who ever lived.
So here's how we're going to trace his story. We'll start with him as a child prodigy, then watch his rise to becoming the king of pop. We'll get into his genius as a total innovator, face the controversies that really shaped his later years, and then, at the end, try to figure out what his legacy truly is.
I mean, this is really the core question, isn't it? It's a story about raw talent for sure, but also about insane ambition and a level of fame that the world had never seen before. So let's jump right in at the very beginning. It all started not with some solo superstar, but with a family band. A family from Gary, Indiana, that just happened to have a little kid with a once-in-a-generation talent leading the charge.
So picture this. Michael was born into a big, working-class family. His dad, Joseph, was a steelworker who had his own musical dreams, and he saw pretty quickly that his kids had something special. So he formed the Jackson 5, and it was obvious from day one that Michael, the youngest one, was the star. Just an undeniable powerhouse. And just think about how fast this all happened. I mean, the speed is just mind-blowing. They sign with Motown in '69, and then in 1970, they don't just get a hit, they get 4 consecutive #1 singles in a single year. It was this absolutely explosive debut, and Michael's incredible voice was right at the heart of it all.
Okay, so that early success, that was really just the launch pad for what would become one of the greatest solo careers in music history. This is the part of the story where Michael Jackson stops being just a star and becomes a true phenomenon, earning that title he's still known for.
This right here, this is where he basically forged his crown. He teamed up with the legendary producer Quincy Jones, and together, they dropped a trilogy of albums that didn't just top the charts. They completely rewrote the rules for pop music. You had the cultural earthquake of Thriller, the slick confidence of Bad, and the global vibe of Dangerous. These albums were just jam-packed with hits that owned the radio for more than a decade. And at the absolute center of it all was Thriller. Man, it wasn't just an album, it was a global event. It became, and you know what, it still is, the best-selling album of all time. That's a record, a high watermark that might honestly never be broken. So when you hear that title, The King of Pop, it wasn't just some catchy marketing phrase. It was just reality. By the late 80s, Michael Jackson dominated everything. The charts, the radio, and especially our TV screens. He had absolutely earned that crown. But here's the thing, his impact was about so much more than just selling a ton of records. He was a true visionary who completely changed the music industry. He pushed every boundary of what an artist could do with performance, with music videos, and with their cultural influence. And of course, you gotta talk about the dancing. He showed the world the moonwalk for the first time during that legendary Motown 25 performance. And it wasn't just a cool dance step, it became a global cultural moment. It's a move so tied to him that you literally cannot see it without thinking of Michael Jackson. Now, this was a huge, huge deal. Back in the early days of MTV, black artists were pretty much shut out. But the videos for Billie Jean and Beat It were just so cinematic, so popular, they were impossible to ignore. He didn't just get on MTV, he basically forced the channel to change its whole game plan, and that kicked the door wide open for so many artists who came after him. And you know, beyond the stage, he was always using his massive platform for good. He gave millions to charity over his lifetime and was one of the key drivers behind We Are the World, that massive charity single that brought all the biggest stars together to fight famine in Africa. But a level of fame like that, a fame that's honestly hard for us to even comprehend, it comes with this intense, blinding spotlight. And Michael Jackson's life was absolutely marked by public fascination, personal struggles, and some really serious legal controversies. So look, we have to talk about the most damaging controversies, which were the multiple allegations of child sexual abuse that he faced. These accusations led to years of intense debate. And while that shadow would follow him, it is a matter of legal fact that in his 2005 criminal trial, he was found not guilty, acquitted of all charges. On top of that, his personal life was just constantly under a microscope.
His changing appearance over the years became the source of endless, relentless media gossip. Michael himself said that a lot of it was because of a skin condition called vitiligo, which causes loss of pigment, but that really didn't do much to stop the media circus. So when we look back at this incredible life, how do we balance the genius with all the controversy? Well, in this final section, let's explore why, despite everything, Michael Jackson's influence on music and culture is just undeniable. His death at 50 was a genuine shock that rippled across the entire globe. It was this tragic end that came just as he was gearing up for a massive comeback tour called This Is It, which just goes to show you, even then, the world was still completely captivated by him. His legacy can be measured in numbers that are almost hard to wrap your head around. Over 350 million records sold worldwide. I mean, that puts him in the absolute top tier of music history. But that number is more than just sales. It's the blueprint for global superstardom that artists from Beyoncé to The Weeknd are still following today. And it wasn't just the fans. The industry itself knew it was witnessing something special, honoring his art with 13 Grammy Awards. Each of those awards really marked an innovation in music videos, in smashing together pop with rock and R&B, in stage performance that permanently changed the DNA of music. So we're left with this final massive question. He was a musical genius, a cultural innovator, and a deeply, deeply controversial figure. There's just no easy answer. His story is one of unbelievable highs and really challenging lows. And trying to define his ultimate legacy, well, that's a complicated job that fans, critics, and historians are still debating today.